let's start with the Hawaii trip.
Okay.
I just want to just go straight into that. First, what led you to make that decision to go to Hawaii? Because at first the decision, it was to go do one of these work in exchange for living situations, right?
Yeah.
And
right.
You've done that before in different places.
Yeah.
So you were not expecting when you went there that you would be there for 4 years.
Right. Yeah. I thought it was going to be a 6 month situation, and it just kept on going, kept on feeling right. And that is one of the mindsets in a lot of the Hawaiian friends that I've made, that you just kind of go with the flow. I just kind of got this thing going on, the flow. And it felt good sticking around. And I was doing a lot physically in nature and building and dancing. It's another physical activity I did quite a bit there. But I guess getting back to your question of why I went there, I had been living in this town that we're in right now, Wilmington, for 18 years. And it seemed like it was time to see some other places. And I never really lived any other place besides North Carolina. And the idea I got was to travel around in my SU vehicle, which you're driving right now, and I would do a lot of sleeping in this thing and living out of it, and going various places out west, the western part of this country that I'd never been before. And sometimes I would have friends that I would go visit at these various places, and sometimes people would just tell me about a spot, and I would just go there and check it out. And I was doing that for about a year of, I just had it where I had a little bit of passive income, just enough to make it work, where I could do this exploration. And then a friend of mine wanted me to go on a vacation with her, and mentioned Hawaii as one of the options. Another option being Portugal, that we were heavily considering. And we chose Hawaii, the Big Island. And I set it up to do this work trade thing there, and just kept doing it. It kept running into situations that seemed like good, interesting living situations. A lot of it being a work trade or house sitting. But then I got into community living and living/working at these retreat centers, and also doing the car living thing there as well sometimes. Sometimes just living in the jungle for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it got me a little more in touch with nature, which I believe is, we're talking about creativity on this podcast. And to me, creation is God.
Yeah. I think I agree with that.
And that's good. We're agreeing right off the bat.
We're not an argument. This is not an argument episode.
This is great. So far, so good. And yeah, with that, it seems like the biggest creator, undeniably, is nature. So that would be. I love trying to explain everything, or
explaining the unexplainable.
Yeah, explain this weird ass existence that we're in. And I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and this idea of what is God, and to me, undeniably, it's three things, and maybe one day a fourth thing. Is this okay if we get into this?
Yeah, well, I wanted to, and maybe this, I feel like this is probably aligned with this because it was the question I asked you the other day that we decided to save for the podcast.
Mm.
But it was your experience. I mean, you can talk about that lifestyle, the way you were living in Hawaii is like more like a nomad kind of lifestyle. It was like semi-homeless at times, but then again, you were like in nature and it was a voluntary sort of homelessness.
Yeah.
And so this comes with getting in touch with nature. And I think getting closer to some sort of understanding of what we're talking about here, God and creation, these sort of things start to make sense more the more in touch with it you get.
Yeah.
The more you get rid of the distractions. So I wanted to talk to you about like being on a prolonged adventure like that. Is this what you would say is your biggest takeaway, is just this sort of realization about the nature of existence?
It's pretty huge. Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned homelessness. I would like to mention that that is a pretty challenging situation to be in, where you're living in your vehicle, or even if you don't have that, it's even more so. But also, it was so amazing.
Yeah. But you were in Hawaii.
I was in Hawaii, which adds to it.
Yes. I imagine being in the same situation in New York might be a little bit different.
It'd be different, yeah.
Or even around here.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Right. It's very location specific to how good it can be.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the guy down there on the corner, like 3rd and Chestnut, is necessarily getting in touch with nature.
Well, it's pretty weird that it's pretty hard to get in touch with nature.
Yeah.
Around here.
Yeah.
And I guess in general, if you're not shelling out the dough to own your own part of God, nature God, which is such a strange aspect of what we've got going on in this existence. If we can agree that nature is God, and we've got this other entity or this idea that's limiting access to it, which would be essentially government owning all of nature God.
Yeah. By the way, real quick, I mean, I imagine you probably have a long-winded explanation for why it's each of these 3 things, but what are the 3 things that you see are God?
So yeah, the 3 things would be nature and the individual, are so 8 billion gods or whatever, however many they may be, because we got this perspective that's shooting out of our skull. And the third would be the interaction between the individual God and nature God. So it can be anything you and I create together, any seeds we plant, any prunings or mulchings, or shelters we might build out of what we have in our existence to work with. And
so you feel like it's limited to nature, human beings, and then the relationship between nature and human beings?
I think so. That's the sense I'm getting.
I suppose that makes sense in the context of seeing the word God as a human concept, to divide it in relation to that which is human, that which is not human, but that which, I guess, encases and is the environment of a human. Yeah. Because I think we're not disagreeing.
But we better not.
Yeah, we better not. But I think I feel similarly. I think I would just identify God rather than 3 things as like this abstract force, like an abstraction of what you're saying. It's a specific, and it's hard to pin down with words, but I see God as when you take human beings, nature, all that's within nature and the universe and beyond.
Yeah.
It's this abstract pattern or this force of positive creation, like divine order. It's the things that, like, if you look at the universe and in this entropy perspective, where there's a bunch of chaos and explosions and wild stuff going on, it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
And disorderly. It's all the divine order that just occurs out of that in spite of all the chaos.
Yeah.
And so that's like, I think God points to the fact that from a scientific perspective, it seems really crazy and odd that the planet Earth even exists and operates as it does.
Right.
And it's like a really lucky chance inside of scientific entropy that we human beings can exist and are what we are and even have the perspective that we do and can have that relationship with nature. So I guess that's a little more way I see that, but I like how you've divided it into these three things, and I want to hear more about like why you think that and how your experience brought you to see it that way.
Yeah. Well, I'm not attached to any of these ideas, but it seems...
damn it.
I can let go of it.
Yeah, change your mind and believe what I believe, because I just said it.
Well, so you're believing, or you're saying that it's the Force. It's the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm a big Star Wars guy.
So it's this unseen force that is creating and destroying, which is also creating, which I think is a fun thing to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, destruction is a form of creation.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess I'm breaking it down to, and I guess in a way this helps me come to terms with the hypocritical discussion that I have in myself between the idea that there is some sort of divine plan,
mm-hmm.
and also that us individuals have free will.
Mm.
And so if it can be seen that way, and that there's this God that's
mm-hmm.
all around us, that is this nature, this existence that we just happen to find ourselves in, and that also we are God, then yeah, that helps me a little bit come to terms with, okay, I've got this free will, but I'm also interacting in this thing that has some sort of a divine plan involved in it.
Mm.
And so this collaboration, if we're working together, these two gods, we can create who knows what amazing stuff when in this third God category of collaboration.
Well, so I like, here's why I really like that we agree on the God, like seeing God and creativity is like somewhat synonymous, is because I don't know if I agree with the idea that we as humans are God, but I do believe that we are of God, or that the bit of us that it, like, we have part of God, like the part of God that's in us is synonymous with creativity. Like there is divine creation, which is of course the creation of everything. Mm-hmm. But then there is human creativity, which is what human beings in their limited form are capable of doing creatively in that limited form. So there's divine creativity, God, and then human creativity. And it's that creativity, even in the human form, that's a little piece of God that we have.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of see it. And there's
can I alter what I've said?
Oh yeah, of course.
That we are God of ourselves, of our own experience.
Of our domain, of our limitation.
Right. The way we can look at a situation and be like, oh, this sucks, or instantly change it and be like, this is awesome.
Right. It's that free will and capacity for creativity that's what our little chunk of God that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Oh no, and I was just saying this whole and this kind of gets into some creative philosophy stuff too, but you know, there's this I think it's a Jewish idea that
Circumcision.
no.
Oh, not that one.
I know you love that topic. But it's that what is the one thing that man has that God does not? Limitation.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. And so then I like that idea in line with a lot of what I've learned, or a lot of like creative philosophy stuff I've heard about, like our limitation is what makes us, like, helps people be creative. Like the more, like, you know, people really want freedom in creativity. That's often talked about, like, I just want pure creative freedom. But it's oftentimes where you have these specific limitations, whether those are you are a broke person and you really can't do things that someone with a budget can do with creativity. So you're limited to focus on your resources. And because your mind can't go outside of that domain, you end up doing really interesting things with what little you have. Same with, like, you know, you're working for a news network or a television network that, like, you can't do this, this, and this on the television network. So whatever you are allowed to do, you're playing with those rules, and you end up finding really creative ways to get around them or play with the rules.
I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, it was just thoughts that were coming up there when we were talking about God, creativity, and limitation.
Right.
And,
which is its own way of creating and can promote, you know, maybe not better or worse, but whatever is going to create something different.
yes, the creation of parameters and boundaries.
Yeah. Which is so fun to think about, you know, as if you are God, if Cameron Smith is God, and
I am.
and you are, and you have unlimited resources, and I'm curious about this for you in general, unlimited resources to create whatever you want. You know, what are you gonna create?
Like, yeah, if someone were to wave a magic wand and then I just had an unlimited amount of money, like, what would I start doing right now?
All the money, all the time, all the people that want to help you.
Well, I'd stop doing this podcast, number one.
Right.
No, I'd definitely continue. I'd finish this out. At least finish this episode.
Interview.
I would finish this episode, and then I would go work on allocating labor to other people. Like, I would pay a team to be my editor and then distributors. So I just record this and then pass the footage on to someone else.
Yeah. You probably don't even have to plug anything in.
Right. I'd probably go invest in a studio and like an actual crew, so where I don't even have to pass the footage along. There's physically people here that are shooting it with nicer cameras, maybe even Zoom H9.
Oh man!
Whenever they put that out,
the next step up.
But then I think I would definitely focus on comedy, making music, and film projects. And you know, I don't want to talk about it on here because I'm still trying to keep it on the DL. But the documentary project, that would probably be like the main thing I focus on while trying to work on some new music and comedy as sort of a secondary thing, and then doing this also in my free time because I do like having the conversations. But it is quite a time-consuming thing.
Right.
To do all the editing and distribution and stuff like that.
Right. Hand editing all three of these cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Man, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know if people paying attention to this knows what the amount of time that goes into cutting these YouTube videos.
Yeah, so that's what I would do with money.
So basically the stuff you're already doing.
Stuff I'm already doing.
That looking for money is distracting.
Yes. Yeah. Looking for money really distracts me from that. Yeah. I would probably continue doing modeling photography for fun.
Yeah.
I like doing that.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah. Chasing the joy.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I might get into painting and actually playing instruments. Those are some other things I'd probably do if I had that extra time.
Nice. Yeah.
Might travel some.
Mm-hmm. These are all good things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope that happens.
I hope it does too. What about you? What would you do if you suddenly were free of the financial burden?
Well, I would be real careful to not let that destroy me, or hope not to, because it can get, I imagine, pretty lethargic if you just got everything you need and don't have that drive specifically to.
Yeah. I do wonder about that because, the first week of the pandemic, like the first couple months of the pandemic, I was not getting financial relief. Like my unemployment application was just like frozen. And it took like 2 months before they finally were like, oh, okay, yeah, we owe you all this money. And then they gave it to me all at once. But for those first 2 months, that was the most productive I was in the pandemic. Like I thought I was fucked. And that's when I made Camronavirus in 1 week.
Yeah.
And then took maybe a week break. And then the following 3 weeks made the Bad Boy album.
Nice.
And I was not financially okay. I had no idea what was going to happen. But
and that was fueling creativity towards these other projects.
I mean, yeah, I guess it was. I mean, special circumstances. One of it being like the first few weeks, it was kind of this. No one knew what to believe about the severity of the situation, and we were just told 2 weeks to just completely stay inside as much as possible.
Yeah.
And don't be around people, and you can't go to work. So that I think was immediately freeing of like, I can't go to work. I cannot apply for jobs right now.
Right.
It's not allowed. So I just knew that was out of the question. And I was like, what am I going to do in my room by myself? Like, I can make music. I can do that.
Yeah.
Because I can't do stand up and can't really make film stuff.
Right.
But yeah, so there was that immediate direct limitation of what can I do creatively in my room by myself.
Perfect coronavirus activity.
Yes. Music was very good, lyric writing and recording and, beat selection and all that. But yeah, I mean, once I got the money, then they backlogged it of 2 months worth, something like that. I got a big chunk of money, and I ended up kind of just fucking around, just, I went up to Boone to see my friend Zach a couple of times, just hung out with him.
Okay.
I might have done a little bit of creative stuff. I might have made a music video. But yeah, I could barely get started on more music and I was doing stand up.
Yeah.
I was doing quite a bit of stand up.
Yeah.
But
well, yeah, so that would be my concern with having all the money is I can afford the most expensive chocolate bars, and I should be careful not to just sit around eating chocolate bars all the time.
Do you really like chocolate bars?
Oh man,
expensive ones.
Those Who chocolate bars.
Oh yeah, those.
Man,
yeah, when I was eating dark chocolate, those were my favorites.
Oh, you're off the dark chocolate.
Yeah, it's caffeine, dude.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forget about that sometimes.
I also, with my meat diet, I don't believe cacao's good for us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is what does it do?
Well, it's a plant derived. Well, it is a plant, and it has defense chemicals in it. So I'm not specifically sure which defense chemicals are in cacao, but I don't know if they're the defense chemicals that are thyroid hormone inhibitors or whether they're inflammatory to the gut or both. But that's typically what the defense chemicals do to us.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
And I don't know how severe they are, whether it's a mildly toxic one or if it's no, this is a pretty serious one.
Plant poisons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. All the things to maybe not eat or eat.
Right.
So many options. But yeah, getting back to that question, I would and talking about God, I've got this satirical comedy that I've been working on for a while called God and Moses. BFF.
Right.
And I made a short film about it, but there's a larger story that could be told that involves God and Moses and their relationship, bringing them to a place where they discover that, you know, God is not really the real God, and heaven is not really the real heaven, and it's they got to deal with that, and find God and find heaven in themselves, essentially.